Today specifically, I wanted to cover kind of like the two call close situation that we kind of handle like internally, and something that we've translated into like our course training as well. But I know a lot of you are getting booked calls on the schedule. Some of you for the first time, so felt like it was very appropriate to go ahead and dive into kind of like this structure. But just to clarify, like this is pretty blank as far as like the overall structure behind like the two call strategy. Like I don't really have too much that's like industry specific or anything like that. But if you guys want, feel free to let me know, and I can share this like template that I have created here, and you guys can clone it, edit it how you wish, and use it just kind of as like a structure for how you guys take the calls. But let's go ahead and dive right into it. um, Pretty much like how we like to frame the calls on our end, and obviously pretty much all of you guys have experienced this, coming into this program. You went through either a two call close or something similar to this. But anyways, we have it broken down into kind of like three main like categories. Obviously, number one, preparing for the call. Number two, the call number one, which is like the quote unquote like discovery call or breakthrough session, however you want to word that. And then we have call number two, which would be the actual like close, the actual closing call where you're delivering the pitch. And keep in mind, like a lot of like our outreach messaging, a lot of our marketing or advertising that comes from the lead generation team is all geared towards, like basically like a qualification call. So that's kind of the reason why we have it set up in a two call close situation. But I just kind of wanted to highlight that because we can sometimes run ourselves into situations where everything is like an amazing fit right off the rip, and a two call close can definitely turn into like a one call close situation. And something that I've definitely noticed, like specifically with, like when it comes to like our fitness coaches and stuff like that, like if you can create that emotional attachment and they're all fired up and ready to get ready, then there's no point in like dragging this out into another call situation. Like if they have the time and you're able to deliver the pitch in the right way, then you can move through just having that done in one call. But let's move into kind of like what I have here, the notes that I have here. So number one, the first thing that we tell our team to do, and like the number one thing that we do, is prepare for the call. One of our coaches, Bradley, he makes it very like straightforward. Like a good salesperson or a good closer is always going to be prepared for the call that they're going to be taking, whether it's getting background information on the prospect based on the conversation history, or looking at social media profiles, just overall like trying to get some different information based on that prospect that you're hopping on the call with. And like I said, the real like goal with the preparation is so you're not coming into the call blind. It's very good, to use this time to try and find like some similarities or something that you can mention in the first call that can create some sort of small talk. So if you see, like an accomplishment from the prospect that they mention on social media, or they mention, like they went on a vacation, like these are all like kind of like talking points that will just kind of show like you give a fuck more about that person than just hopping on that call just to close them. You know what I'm saying? So the main like step number one, or the main goal off the rip, is to prepare for the conversation that you're about to have. And once you have like some notes on that person, whether it's some background information based on forms that they might have filled out to book the call, or whatever the situation might be, then you know that you are prepared to hop on that call. And one thing that I like to say is like you should have like some sort of strategy or some sort of objective with these calls, but at the same time, like you also need to leave it open to kind of like let it flow based on the situation that happens inside of like the original call, the discovery call. So moving on into like the actual call, the first thing that you want to kick it off with is just like a small talk situation, like, just an introduction, like get to know each other, start to create like that trust, because like the biggest thing that we need to do as I don't want to say, I don't like to say salespeople. I like to say, like closers, because that's what we're here to do, close deals. We're not really here to just pitch offers, and if it happens, it happens. Like we want to close the deals. So the biggest thing that we need to focus on here is creating trust. In if a call goes south or if a deal doesn't close, it's likely because there wasn't enough trust created. And the easiest way that you can create the trust off the rip, being that this is likely like a stranger, to you especially, because any of the past conversation was likely done through the lead generation representative. So the best thing that you can do is have that small talk, talk about like anything that can bring up like similarities, or something that you guys can chat about, that's like an interesting topic between the two of you. um and then this is kind of like, once the small talk is out of the way, this is where you kind of like shift the conversation to being like, hey, like I know we're here for a point, so I wanted to learn a little bit more about your situation, whether it's in the fitness space and the situation is weight loss, or in the life coaching space it's some sort of transformation that the person wants to accomplish, or better yet, I mean, I wouldn't even say that it's a transformation that the person wants to accomplish. It's usually identifying like the pain point or the problem that the person is experiencing. And one of the best ways that I can kind of like sum that up, and Mike like kind of gave me this analogy. It's kind of like the patient to doctor situation. It's like the patient is the prospect that's hopping on the call, and then you are the doctor. So the goal here in call number one is to really figure out like what the problem is that you need to solve. And realize that it might not be the same problem with every single person, but the solution is likely the same. It likely leads into the same type of conversation. Um, so getting more information about the situation, listen to their answers, and ask them more questions that relate to the answers. The biggest thing here is like the prospect needs to be heard. Like they need to feel like they are heard, like that you are paying attention to them, and you're not just like ripping shit off just to move through the process. Like you don't want it to really seem like it is like a structured process that you're taking them through on the back end. So the easiest way that you can make it feel very natural is listening and responding to their input based on like questions that lead to different things. So the biggest thing that the biggest goal here is identifying the pain point. Once you identify the pain point on call number one, confirm that pain point, or confirm that problem, and move on. Pretty much, like I said, with the fitness industry, usually the pain point is going to be like, hey, I want to lose some type of weight. Or in the life coaching industry, I'm having bad relationship problems with a spouse or children, or I have some sort of mind blocks that are just holding me back. For some reason, I just can't get to the next level. So identifying like that main like kind of block that they're having, that's holding them back from the real goal, the real desired outcome that they want to have. Um, and then once you are able to identify and confirm, then you want to qualify that person, make sure that they are like a good fit for like the next step for the call number two situation. So I left this note in here because I think it's like kind of like a funny way to put this, but at the same time, I think like this language is really important, or this type of like communication is really important when it comes to these discovery calls, because it kind of like releases like the I don't want to say like it releases like the professionalism, but it shows that you're human. It shows that you're a real person, and you're not just like, oh, rock hard and business type of thing. Like it shows that you can have like a normal relationship with somebody. So just for this example, it's like, Mark, I'm stoked we got connected. I'm looking forward to doing something with you. Look, I had to ask you some questions to weed through the idiots. There's a lot of idiots out there, and we can't help everybody, but we can help you. So the main goal here is to qualify that person, and basically confirm with them like, hey, I can help you. Like I know you told me about like the problems that you're having, and I'm glad that you shared that with me. And like that, now I know that for sure, like I can actually help you. I can help you reach that desired outcome that you want to hit. Now the big important piece here is like moving into kind of like this second call situation. One of the biggest mistakes that I see is people will come into this situation. They will confirm, that the person is a good fit for the type of coaching that you guys might provide. But it's like a, all right, cool, like let me know when is good for you. We'll text and we'll get another like time on the schedule to go over the actual like close, the actual like pitch. Now, one thing that's really important with this is to confirm that this person is able to be a good fit for your program, and then get that appointment like right on the schedule at that time. So I put this, is this a good time for you, quotation in here, just because, that's a good leeway into like, hey, how about this same exact time tomorrow? If they already booked a call for that time, it's likely a good fit for a time to communicate on any given day of the week. So it's a great starting point as far as getting that next call on the books. And just in this example, is 1 p.m. Eastern time good for you on Monday? Like that's how the conversation would go. And they would say yes or no, and you would come up with a different time. But in the event that they say yes, then it's like, perfect, I'm going to shoot you an invite over for tomorrow at this time. I'll have a roadmap ready to show you how you can get to the actual goal that you want to get to. How does that sound, type of thing. And notice that I put in here, like, I'll have a roadmap ready to show you. Typically what we do is, like this first call situation will just be a normal like phone call, where you're able to kind of like release any tension for them to actually show up to the call. That's kind of the reason why I think it's best to do like a phone call on the front end as far as the first call, because Zoom links, like people get like a little woo woo about it. They're like, oh, now I got to look pretty, and like, I'm just like just getting out of the shower, and screw that, I'm not going to get on, because it's a Zoom call. But a phone call, like you call them, they either answer or they don't. It's very like less like attacking when it comes to getting them to actually show up for that call. And like I had noted right here, make sure to book the second call before you end the first call. This is very important. You want to make sure that you can confirm them into the next stage while you're already on that initial call. So just as a side note down here at the bottom, the goal in call number 1 is to identify and isolate the key pain points and tell them you have the solution. But you need to schedule another call to explain the solution, as it requires more time than what it is scheduled now. This also like puts in like that psychology behind the fact that like, hey, this is a personalized solution for your problem. Like I need to go back, I need to do some homework on myself and figure out like what the actual like real solution is for you. Like I know I can help you, Mark, but I want to make sure it's the perfect thing and we're communicating properly about this solution. So let me take some time, let me put something together for you. Let's get on tomorrow, same time, and I'll break you down the actual like solution that I'm going to put you through to solve your problem. Now moving into call number 2, this is like the actual closing situation. So the best way to start off this call is, most of the time it's going to be within 24 to 48 hours of you taking the original call. So not too much stuff is going to change during this time. But if the prospect does mention something about, oh, I have my son's birthday party tonight, or I have this going on tomorrow, like reference that stuff when you get on to the second call. Like, hey, how was the birthday party yesterday? Like, did you guys have a good time? Things like that will show the prospect that you're actually paying attention to them. You're actually hearing them, and you care about them, really. Like you care about them more than just getting this deal done. Now, one thing that like I like to do as far as like transitioning the conversation out of that small talk in the call number 2 situation is just like, perfect, I created something badass for you to show you. So I just want to make sure that you have, like that I have your full attention, so I can make sure that, like we can move forward as far as like the presentation. The big thing here is like, make sure people aren't like driving, or, if you hear a bunch of background noise, just ask them to like, hey, like, I just want to make sure like I have your fully like undivided attention, and, we can properly go through this. Another thing that I like to mention is something along the lines of, I'm going to share with you everything you need to know to make a yes or no decision right now. So if you come up with any questions along the way, let's make sure that they are covered during this call, so we can stick to having a yes or a no answer by the time that this call is over. Sound good? And the reason that I put this in here is because one of the biggest like situations that you guys will find yourself in is like a I need to think about it situation, or I need to talk with somebody, or like I need to do X, Y, and Z before I can make a decision. So stating this on the front end is going to put you in a position to where you can avoid those types of situations on the back end when you're finishing up the call. And if you do come into a situation where somebody is like, I got to think about it, you can just reference, like, hey, I mentioned at the beginning of this call, if you had any specific questions, let's just handle it now so I can get a yes or a no answer. I don't want to waste either of our time. Another reason that this is very important is because 9 times out of 10, if you get off this second call without closing the deal, you'll likely never talk to this person again. And it's likely, it's just the nature of like sales, like obviously, like, the follow-up game is very important when it comes to sales, but if you can avoid having to follow up with somebody, it's really going to increase your sales. um, so this is kind of like a way that you can pull yourself out of that follow-up situation and getting an answer at the end of that by the end of that call, regardless if it's a yes or a no. So after confirming this, like, perfect, Mark, let's go ahead and jump right into the roadmap. Then you can share your screen and dive into the overall roadmap that you're going to take them through as far as the transformation. Now, something that I would say as far as like a roadmap, you want this to seem like as simple as possible, but at the same time showcase things that obviously require your help and not things that they can really do on their own. So when it comes to like fitness stuff, like the biggest thing is people are like, oh, I know what I need to do. Like I know I need to eat better. I know I need to show up in the gym to lose weight. And it's like, well, cool. Like, why aren't you doing this? And so like a roadmap will put you in a position to where it's like, this is exactly the transformation that I'm going to take you through. Now, one thing that I think is very important with a roadmap situation is, like I said, not making it too complex. You want it to look simple, but at the same time, showcase things that obviously require your attention versus them being able to do it 100% on their own. Um, Now, once you go through like kind of like the presentation or the pitch, you will confirm like, hey, do you have any questions about this, or is everything good? And as long as everything's good, then you can confirm like, hey, I just want to make sure like this is the solution to your problem. Like, I just want to make sure that you think this is the viable solution to your problem. And if you can get a yes answer out of this question or out of this statement, it's pretty much a done deal right there. Like you are confirming that it is the proper solution to their problem, and they are telling you. So now at this point, it's like, perfect. Now I can shoot the price to them. And this is a very important piece. Shoot the price over and like literally just shut up. Like, don't say a word. Like, just let the other person think about it. If it's 5 minutes of silence, it is what it is. It'll be a little bit awkward, but I promise you this is very, very important. One of the biggest things that I've seen like our coaches do, even our internal like sales team do, is they'll pitch like the price and then they'll start to say, oh, it's like they're almost trying to like reaffirm the sale, like, this is why it costs that much. And you already did all of that through the beginning stages. You already confirmed that this was the viable solution. So your only job at this point is to deliver the price of what it's going to take for them to get started with you, and then that's it. Um, Now, obviously, this might bring up some other conversation as far as objections or and things like that. But the main goal here is just to be confident in what you do, and knowing that it is the proper solution to their problem based on the previous statement that they confirmed. And then at this point, you'll be able to send them an invoice. You want to make sure that you do this on the call. Shoot them over the invoice if everything sounds good, and make sure that the invoice is handled on the phone. You do not want to get off the call without the invoice being completed. Like I said, 9 times out of 10, you're likely never going to talk to this person again if they get off the call, unless your offer is like absolutely amazing. And with that being said, if it comes into a situation where, like, they don't want to buy, like, literally let them go. Like, as salespeople, we have to realize that we need to be confident in ourselves as far as creating other opportunities. And obviously, you guys here, you have us in the background, generating leads, generating appointments on your books for you. So you already know that there's going to be other opportunities in the future for you. Um, And the biggest thing here is like don't get caught up on the uninterested. Like you really need to focus on the people that are a hell yes and not a hell no. Now closing obviously is like kind of like turning those no's into yeses. So there are ways that you can swap that no into a yes. But if it's somebody that really just isn't a good fit, just drop your ego, let them go, and move on to the next opportunity in your books. Now, one thing here is kind of like handling objections. The best way, or the only way that you should be handling objections is, number one, by identifying and isolating that it is the actual objection and it's not some bullshit excuse that they just came up with. Um, and the biggest thing here is, like, oh, I need to think about it because of X, Y, and Z. Oh, I need to think about it because of the price, And so, like, once they give you the objection, you need to confirm that that is the real objection. So that's when you move into the second piece of handling the objection, which is giving the most obvious solution. So in the example of a price situation, the most obvious solution is going to be, hey, if this was $0, would it be a yes? And as long as they say yes, you know that the price is the real objection. If they say no, then you know that the price is not the real objection. It's just an excuse, and you need to move on and identify the real objection at hand. Now, in the event that they say yes to that type of question, where it's like, hey, the price is a little off, like the number is a little high, but blah blah blah. You give the most obvious solution, saying, okay, cool. If it was $0, it would be a yes, right? They say yes, and then it's like, all right, cool. It's time to solve the problem. So, Mark, I understand, like, if it was $0, it would be a hell yes. Unfortunately, it's $3,000. But the good news is I know somewhere in between $0 and $3,000, we have a deal. So we just got to figure it out. Let's figure it out. Like, well, let's figure out what we can get a deposited on the books. And, you can start into kind of like the negotiation phases of that process. Now, this is something that I like to stay away from. I don't really like to like negotiate deals, like I don't think like you guys should be negotiating deals or offering deposits or little things like that. But in the event that it is like a perfect fit and it's literally like a financial situation that's holding them back, feel free to do what you need to do to get the deal through the door. And just kind of like as I was running through, as I was explaining like handling objections, kind of like a role play situation, like I got to think about it. Mark, that makes perfect sense, man. I'd want to think about it too. But out of curiosity, what you got to think about? Oh, I got to think about the price. It's a little out of my budget, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool, Mark. Let me ask you a question. If the price was perfect, would you pull the trigger? Yes, I would definitely pull the trigger. Cool. Well, it sounds like somewhere between 0 and 3,000. We got a deal. Let's figure it out. So like I said, this is like kind of like a very basic like structure to the two call close, but at the same time, like it's really all you need to do. Like you can just kind of plug in your missing pieces in between those steps. But cool. That's kind of what I wanted to chat about here today. Do you guys have any specific questions about this?
Hey, Mike. I just have one question. Would it be more trusting to offer the price before going into everything, or no?
I'm gonna say no, just because most people will judge a book by its cover, and you don't want that to be the one thing that holds them back. Because one of the biggest things I think that we can do on the back end when it comes to us being coaches is creating that emotional attachment to the transformation that we can provide. And a lot of times by delivering the price, that emotion isn't really created, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
Now, however, if somebody did ask us, like, hey, what is it? Like people ask us this all the time, especially internally with our team during lead gen. We just kind of break it down to where like, hey, our packages start anywhere from 2,500 all the way up to 7,500. So it's not like completely like making it mysterious because if they are asking a question, like I always tell people, like just answer the question, but at the same time, like there's no need to give up the price or the information regarding that if they don't ask for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Perfect. Any other questions regarding this?
I'll chime in if nobody has any questions. I just want to kind of also touch on like the first call specifically, and kind of just talk about, first off, like, does anybody have any initial questions right now that you want to handle that are top of mind, or am I good to jam on this?
I think you're good to go.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so with call number one, I wanted to also kind of talk about a couple things that we do internally with our sales process, and talk about like the questions to ask, because there's probably, we get on sales calls. A lot of us get on sales calls with no real structure to those calls, and they become connection calls instead of sales calls, right? And like, you don't want to be salesy, but you want to find the pain point, like Mike is saying in call number one, like really isolate the pain point. That's how we sell coaching offers. Like, pain leads to change, right? When someone is in a painful state and we have a solution to that pain, that's how they're going to make an investment. That's how they're going to work with us. So one of the things that you guys might want to jot down as to notes when it comes to what questions to ask, and like how to frame that question, that discovery section of the call, because we do want to take control over what questions we're asking and getting like the actual end result out of that first call. Typically, I've noticed in the past, like prior to where we really dialed in our sales system, that I would generally be having conversations that I didn't get enough information to close somebody with the questions that I was asking, right? So one of the things that you can note down is like, the first sections of questions that you want to ask are criteria questions. So with criteria questions, you want to ask things about like, what is their goal in that area of your life, right? If you're helping somebody with their business, then it's like, what's your revenue goal? If you're helping somebody with, their mindset or spirituality, you have to ask a question related to that. Like, what's the overall goal that they're trying to accomplish with, what they want, right? What do they want out of a potential coach? What is the ultimate goal? That's like number one. And then understanding like, why is that goal important to you, right? This is what starts to build the emotion. This is what starts to get people to actually feel what it feels like, right? When you ask them like, why is the goal important to you? They're going to say, for instance, with us, a lot of the times when we hop on calls and we're saying like, what's your revenue goal? And they say, oh, I want to make, 50K a month. It's like, okay, why do you want to do that? Why is that so important to you? And then that's where you'll start to hear like, well, I want to take care of my kids. I want to take care of my family. And those are specific pain points that we can use. Those are specific emotional points that we can use for the close. So understand that like, that question is going to dig out what is truly important to this person. And if we don't create our solution around what's important to that person, they're not going to buy. Like, the thing is that we have to understand as coaches that a sales call is coaching somebody to the sale, right? It's not just like pestering somebody to get a payment, or it's not just like, it's coaching somebody. Like, it's understanding where they're at, where they're trying to get to, what emotions are holding them back, and why it's important to them. So those questions are really important. Then switching over to like present state questions. So like, what's been their biggest struggle in getting to that goal? What's the biggest struggle that's getting them to that goal? And they're going to answer certain things like, it's their discipline, or it's their, they're just not consistent. Like, so now you're going to dig another pain point and another thing that you can figure out what's actually holding this person back. What's the biggest struggle behind them achieving what they want to achieve? Because in reality, right, like Mike said, with everything that we do, information is infinite. Like, it's 2021. Anybody could go on YouTube, go on Google, and find the solution to their problem. But what's really holding them back is like discipline, structure, consistency, like all across the board, no matter what it is. Those are usually the underlying problems. So what's the biggest struggle that on the pursuit of obtaining that goal? And then we switch over to doubt-based questions. So what strategies have you tried to fix that? What strategies have you tried in trying to obtain that goal, right? So then you're understanding like, what has this person actually even tried? What strategies have they tried to use? And then a question off of that is, why don't you think they worked for you, right? So what this is going to do, these certain questions are going to reveal to you what the actual problem is here, because my favorite statement to say is buyers are liars. Like, buyers are always liars. They're going to tell you that it's one thing when in reality it's something else. So as a coach, like, you guys are all coaches here, and like, we can all agree that how we actually figure out the real problem behind the like silk screen is by asking effective questions. Asking effective questions is what gets people to reveal the underlying problem that they're actually experiencing. So those are important. And then then we would go like costs and consequences. So like, what is the current state of that situation that you don't like? Like, what do you not like about that area of your life? What is it actually affecting, right? And then how does that feeling affect your pursuit of that goal? And then the last set of questions, which are probably the most important of the entire thing, are your payoff questions. So one question is, what would success look like to you in this area, right? So if you're a life coach, it's like, well, what's the overall outcome for you that you want? Like, what does success look like to you in this area of your life? And they're going to talk about it like, well, success looks like, whatever the case may be. And it's not like, obviously, a lot of us don't have monetary offers, so we don't have to worry about that. They're going to answer based off of what you're talking to them about. So if it's about like spirituality or their mindset, it's like, well, what does success look like with you in terms of spirituality? What does success look like to you in terms of your mindset? And they're going to say like, well, I don't want anxiety. I don't want to be overthinking. I don't want to do this. So now you have even more pain points. Now you know that this person is struggling with anxiety. Like, we can continue to build the list of what this person's experiencing. And all these questions, they show that you're actually intentional about solving the problem. They show that you're trying to get to the underlying problem. You're not just trying to see it at face value, right? And then the last question, which is the most important, is what's stopping you from getting there on your own? What's stopping you from getting there on your own? That's probably the most important question to ask at the end of this discovery period, because what it does is the prospect is going to have a realization moment that they might not be able to do it on their own. Like, all these questions are showing them, okay, so I have this goal. It's important to me because of this. I have this big struggle in getting there. I've tried all these things. They haven't worked, and it's costing me a lot. And maybe I can't do this by myself. Maybe I do need a coach. Maybe I do need someone to show me the way, right? So these questions and having this sort of structure is going to put you guys in a place where you're really figuring out the underlying problem behind this whole mess. Because like, honestly, sales calls can be a mess. Like, a lot of times it's just like dumping, and like there's a lot of stuff. So making sure that we have a structure with questions helps us get the answers that we need, so that when we get into the second call, when we get into the close, we have all this, like, for a lack of a better word, we have all this like ammo behind us of all this information that we've gotten from this person of what they're struggling with, what's holding them back. Because when it comes to the close, you're going to have to coach them into that payment. Like, nobody wants to spend money. We can all agree that. Like, none of us ever want to spend money. And I'm pretty close to like certain that all of you guys probably had fear and uncertainty in even investing in this program, right? So like, understand the fact that we need to analyze how we behave as buyers, because that's how people behave when we're on sales calls. So understanding the fact that we're going to have to coach somebody into a yes. And sometimes we're going to have to deal with limiting beliefs. We're going to have to deal with them, not believing in themselves. But these questions are going to help us build a structure to understand what the real problem is and what we can use in that close to really hold up the mirror of the fact that they need someone like us, So I just wanted to kind of tap in with some of those questions, because I know sometimes we can be a little bit lost on like what specific questions we ask on a call.
Boom. Yeah, no, that was key for sure.
Perfect. Any questions based off of that?
No questions. I just wanted to say that I like the flow of how you guys structure that, because a lot of times, like you're saying, like you can get lost in the call and kind of go off tangent, and then next thing you know, like you're talking about something completely off topic. So it's nice to have like a structure to come back to.
For sure. Yeah. And I think the big thing with that, right, is understanding that like when we're trying to get somebody into our program, like we have to control the conversation, or else it's just going to turn into like a coaching session, you know, like it's going to turn into us just providing value and not getting the end result of what we need out of it. So, you know, us taking control of the conversation and being the one to ask the questions, we're going to get the information that we need by doing so.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you, guys.
Yes, sir. Anytime.
Yes, thank you.
Cool. Any other questions based off of anything we covered today?
Good to go on my end.
Same here.
Yeah, you might have mentioned this, but I would love to get a copy of that document. Is it in the course?
Yeah,
No,
we're
it's
actually.
not. Sorry. I'll go ahead and clone it right now, and I'll send it into the chat here.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, we're re-recording the course in full right now and restructuring it, so it's going to be in the new video that I'm putting up, but right now it's not in the current one.
Okay, very cool.
Perfect. Lynette, do you have any questions? I'll take that as a no. Sounds good. Well, if we don't have any questions or anything to cover, if you guys have any questions and concerns, feel free to interrupt me. But if not, then we can jump off and enjoy the rest of the Friday.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.